Chapter 19 Neverseen. The member of the Neverseen seemed as surprised as they were, but Sophie recovered quicker. Her instincts took over, red fur rimming her vision as she pulled her anger, preparing to inflict. "That's enough of that," the Neverseen member said, raising his hands and triggering a flash of blinding light. Sophie charged forward, hoping to grab him before he could leap away. But Biana blocked her, shouting, "He's a syniopath. Sayonipat, sorry." The warning rang in Sophie's ears as the light solidified, encasing the clothed figure under a glowing dome. "He makes force fields?" Sophie asked. "You sound impressed." He smoothed the sleeves of his black cloak and gave a bow. Sophie knew it wouldn't work, but she grabbed a rock anyway, launching it at his head with all the strength she had. Biana yanked them out of the way as the rock ricocheted, knocking a football-sized crater in the tree they'd been standing in front of. "You have to stop doing that," Biana said. "I agree," the Neverseen member told them. "Those energy blasts are such a waste, and I believe this is what we call a stalemate. You can't get to me, and if I leave this shield, you'll unleash your inflictor rage. So I'm going to stay right here, where it's nice and cozy." Sophie turned to Biana, keeping one eye on the Sionipat. "How long before the force field wears off?" "Long enough for someone to come to check on me," he told her. "And there's no way to break through the force field?" Sophie whispered. Biana shook her head. "Psionipaths created the shields that keep Atlantis livable underwater. Like I said," he traced his fingers along the glowing field of white energy. "We have a stalemate. So what are you going to do?" "Four of them could show up any second," Biana whispered. "But one of the Neverseen is right there. How can we just leave?" Sophie asked. They hadn't learned what he was doing to the tree, and what if he knew what happened to Kif's mom? "Your telepath tricks won't work," he said, somehow guessing what Sophie was planning. Sophie ignored him, hoping her tweaked abilities would come true as she gathered her mental strength and reached for his mind. As soon as her consciousness hit the force field, it slipped into 1,000 directions, like shoving her thoughts in a blender without the lid on. The Sionipath laughed as she clutched her temples, struggling to fight through the headache. Clearly, the Black Swan forgot to give you any common sense. Fury and frustration clouded Sophie's vision, and she fought them back, knowing she had nowhere useful to inflict them. "Don't think I haven't realized you're not here alone," he added. "You couldn't have lived here, our sensors would have detected it. So that leaves dwarves and gnomes, and I'm betting on a gnome. Where's your little friend hiding? Probably not close, otherwise they would have tried to help you." "You seem to know a lot about us," Sophie said, hoping she sounded calmer than she felt. Maybe if she egged him on, he'd slip and tell her something useful. "How could I not?" he asked. "I've been hearing about Project Moonlark for years. How does it feel to know the sum total of your existence is to be someone else's puppet?" "She's not a puppet," Biana spit through gritted teeth. "No, perhaps you're right," he agreed. "I've always suspected her role would be far more sinister." "You want to talk about sinister?" Sophie asked. "I know what you're doing here. This has to do with the plague, right?" He snorted so loud, snot probably crusted the inside of his hood. "Is that my cue to outline our entire plan for you? Would you like names and dates too, or just the general gist? I could also use hand puppets if you'd like, to make it more entertaining." Okay, so maybe egging him on wasn't going to work. But Sophie had realized something much more troubling. He could have leaped away when they first startled him, but he chose to stay. Why would he do that, unless he had a plan? And why did she have a feeling they were playing right into it? Her feet itched to run, but if they turned their back on him, he could drop his force field and attack. And if they leapt away, he could go after Kala. "Ah, you're turning pale," he said. "I'm guessing that means you finally realized the gravity of your situation. So what's it going to be? Run and hide? Don't think I won't find you. I know this place better than anyone. I came here all the time when I was a kid." "Why would you be in the neutral territories?" Biana asked. "The only people who..." "Oh." "What?" Sophie asked, as Biana shielded her eyes to squint through her force field. "He went to Exilium," Biana whispered. Sophie covered her mouth. "That would mean, whatever you think you've figured out, you're wrong," he insisted. But Sophie could tell by his rigid shoulders that he was lying. Okay, I'm done with this game, he said. Surrender now and save yourselves the pain I'll put you through otherwise. Or we could do this, Biana said, ripping off her black swan pendant and plunging it toward the force field. Sophie braced for the ricochet to blast them with a swan-shaped meteor, but when the glass of the monocle hit the force field, it refracted the light 100 different directions, unraveling the energy shield in a burst of white flames. The Psionipath screamed as fire licked up his cloak, and he leaped away before Sophie could charge him. Come on, Biona said, dragging Sophie back the way they came. We have to get to Kala before he returns with reinforcements. They channeled all their energy to their legs, letting it fuel their sprint. Their feet barely skimmed the ground as they raced through the forest. Somehow, Biona knew exactly where they were going, and within minutes they'd made it back to Kala. No time to explain, Biana shouted as they tumbled underground. Just get us out of here. Kala belted out a song, collapsing the tunnel's entrance as she coiled roots around them, and the trees whisked them to safety. What were you thinking? Mr. Forkle shouted the second they resurfaced in Aluviter. The other four members of the collective stood beside him, along with Fitz, Kif, Dex, and Della. Sophie stepped forward, ready to plead her defense, but Mr. Forkle wasn't focused on her. I did not give you permission to put these children in danger, he growled at Kala. Kala didn't blink. I thought the only permission I needed was their own. Yeah, we chose to go with Kala, Bayan agreed. And we're fine, Sophie added. Plus, we found something big. Found something big, Biana said, giving a quick recap of their encounter. Only then did Sophie realize the dangerous detail she'd forgotten. She backed away from Kala. I touched those sticks, and then I let you tie the roots around me. What if I just gave you the plague? Relax, Miss Foster, Mr. Forkle said. The plague has shown no signs of being transmitted by touch, and anything outside the force field likely wouldn't have been contaminated, assuming anything was. Kala nodded her agreement. Do not worry over me. Our real concern is the Neverseen. Yeah, Kif jumped in. We're going after them, right? You're not going anywhere, Mr. Forkle told him. But this is our chance to finally catch these jerks, Kif said. We might not get another opportunity like this, Blur agreed. You aren't actually considering staging an ambush, Granite said when Mr. Forkle stroked his chin. There's no time to prepare, Squall added. Why are we arguing about this? Keith asked. It's a no-brainer. They're going to come back to that tree at some point, and when they do, we blast them with everything we have. There will be no blasting, Mr. Forkle told him. And again, there is no we. You kids are not a part of this. Go upstairs to your rooms. And you, he willed on Kala. Need to explain yourself when we return. I can explain on the way, Kala said. You'll need me to bring you to Brackendale. You can't leap. Sophie agreed. He said something about sensors. Mr. Forkle sighed. Then Amici can. She doesn't know her way around as well as I do. Kala interrupted. And she doesn't know where we were today. So you can take my help now and be angry with me later. All of us should be going, Kev said. For the last time, Mr. Sensen, you are staying here, Mr. Forkle snapped, and I do not want to hear another word about it. We're wasting time fighting, Sophie said, stepping between Mr. Forkle and Keith. Every second we delay gives the Neverseen time to prepare. You will not change my mind, Mr. Forkle added. We're going, you're staying. What if something happens to you? Della asked the collective. If we're not back by sunrise, have Amici alert our proxies. Garnet told her. Sophie waited for Mr. Forkle to assure her they didn't need to worry. Instead, he said, upstairs, all of you. Come on, she told her friends, who looked just as nervous as she felt. There's something else we need to work on. It better involve studying your lessons, Mr. Forkle warned. Sophie didn't bother replying as she dragged Keith toward the stairs. He fought her for a second, but eventually gave in. No one looked at each other or spoke as they climbed to the tree houses. The only sound was the slow melody of Kala opening a new tunnel into the earth to bring the collective to confront the Neverseen.